Okay, hello. Let me welcome Curt Blattner. Here's the story with Curt. It's an interesting one because recently I received this LinkedIn invitation from Curt, and I think, well, the name sounds familiar. And then I look at Curt, Institute for Emerging Change. So this doesn't ring a bell. Then I look into the CV and say, yes, this must be from the Nestle time. So we got in touch and we decided to meet. And then I find the most amazing story that Curt had actually, from the time when he had been very much in the productivity space, moved on to something quite different. And here is the point where I let him quickly introduce himself so he can tell his story himself. So Curt, over to you.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Well, first, let me say that I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for having me and give me the opportunity to talk about something that's very, very close to my heart, and I know to many other people also. Yes, if I go back a while, as long back as you just mentioned, many, many years when we met the first time, I was in a situation where I was looking for answers to questions like anybody, but specifically in an area where I had experienced myself that cooperation and high-performing teams were something that I had experienced were left up to chance.
Yes.
And I didn't feel that was the right thing. Why am I saying this? Because during some of my experience at that time, I'm talking now the early 90s, maybe mid-90s, I had the opportunity to work with many teams, and many teams were actually in a network together, working together. And I could see that some of the teams, they were doing really well. They actually, they sustained high performance in a way which, which helped the organization they were working for and with to move forward sustainably and with very good results. But there were at the same time, sometimes in the same factory, sometimes within the same department, there were teams that just had problems. They just didn't advance. And when they did, they might not have advanced in a sustainable way. They might have had a good result, but half a year later or whatever, the team was back to square one.
So these are two topics you're mentioning here. Sort of the first is because you came from the performance space, because you were really into this Nestle productivity team, which was about performance. So then you say on the one side, there is differences between the performance of teams as such. So how do they perform? And then also how do they perform over time? Do they are able to maintain, to keep that performance sustainable? That's what the differences you saw now.
Exactly, Andreas. This is the crucial point. I think we've all experienced how teams can get great results, and
yes.
Luckily so. The question, though, remains: what makes a team sustain high performance and sustain great results? And so that was a question which
there. So you discovered something, because we met then. We met for coffee, and then you said, well, Andreas, it may sound obvious, so I need to warn the listeners here that what you're going to hear sounds obvious at first glance, but it's not that obvious.
Yeah, that's really so, Andreas. It's very simple. And simple things in the beginning, you don't even think about them. And once you hear them, you say, of course, it's evident, it's so simple. Yeah. And this is exactly what happened with me. And I think what's happening with many people when they read through my book or read through the elements that are kind of explained and shown in my book, because it's a flash of the obvious. It's a flash of the obvious once you've read it, once you've gone through it, and you go through and you come to a conclusion. You say, yes, that's the way it should be. That's the way exactly. But you never thought about it before, or when you thought about it, you were a little bit stuck. You really didn't know, how do I move forward now on this to make sure that I'm going the right way with the best effectiveness and with the least of pain and waste. I think that's also very important to acknowledge. We all have good ways of moving forward and getting high performance in teams, etc. The most important thing is, though, that when we talk about the human side, on which I will kind of elaborate on a little bit more now, when we talk about the human side, it's of utmost importance to acknowledge the amount of waste and pain that sometimes are happening in our organizations,
Yes.
which we know, but we just accept sometimes, or we go by, we go over, we shrug our shoulders, and yeah, it's the way it is. No, it's a pity. It's a waste and it's a pain.
So you're mentioning in the book, so maybe I show it here. I have the book. I read the book. It's actually a book I can very much recommend because it's really it's well researched, but it's not only well researched, it really builds on practical experiences. And what I also like about this book is that you're quite honest with the things that sort of with your journey as you were trying to put in place or trying to build on this obvious thing that you were mentioning. So what prompted you then ultimately to write the book?
Yeah, you're saying it, Andreas. It's a process. I went through a process, a learning process myself. Fortunately, I had many people around which helped me and which I could relate to. It took a while, although, to get what I would call a critical mass today, to come to a point to say, yeah, I'm going to write about this now. Or I'm going to put it down on a piece of paper. And when I kind of moved from my active period in the company to my still active but retired period from the company, it was a short step to say, yeah, let's put this down on paper and let's write this down.
It's to clarify your thinking also is that was one of the reasons also, or is also to pass a message to, because the message you're trying to pass here is what the core message, because this is what sort of the insight you got.
It's very much so, Andreas. It's to pass a message and to give the reader the possibility, if he wants or she wants to go through this process of learning which somebody like me went through. And if you think about what the center part of the book is, as we said before, it's simple and obvious. It's all about human relations.
Yes, exactly.
And now I say it like this, and everybody says, yes, of course it's all about human relations. We know that. And I think we've known that for a while. But have we put the amount of attention to it, and have we put the amount of effort, and have we put the amount of investment in it to make sure that it gets the right attention?
What I found interesting as I read the book is yes, it's about human relations, which does sound obvious, but then what I found interesting it's also very much about human relations across sort of among a hierarchy. So it's also inspired by the lady which I think inspired you, or which you worked with at that time, is this notion of the dialogue across hierarchies. Because this is also something I see often, that people say, yes, human relations are important, and it's always something that it's for the others. The others should have good human relations. And this idea of having this hierarchical dialogue well functioning, so that's what I found quite interesting about your book. Is that also something that you found is important, or?
Yes, absolutely. And you're right to mention that in this learning process, I was lucky enough to meet Madeleine Laugerie, who then together we were able to ask ourselves questions and find answers to our questions over the years. We're talking years here, which led to this notion of having a sound constructed dialogue within the hierarchy, but also within a team. It's not the same dialogue, but it's based on the same elements guaranteeing sound human relations.
Exactly. So one is the dialogue between sort of the boss and the team, or I think that's how I understood it. And to have a sort of contract on how we want to deal together. And then the other is the collaboration contract, how people want to work amongst each other. So those are sort of two elements plus the third one.
Correct. and the term contract sometimes seems not very well explainable in the context of what we know and what we seem to understand on a contract today. The contract is nothing else than a respectful agreement between
Exactly. So it's
parties.
an agreement.
That's what it is. And it's not a written document. It's not something that has to be reinforced. It's something that's built. And you can use the word dialogue as much for the contract as you want.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas contract for me still has an element of understanding, as we said, this respectful agreement, which is important in knowing how to move forward with this model.
Yeah, I like this notion of agreement, respectful agreement. Another thing in your book, which I found interesting and which I really thought, whoa, that was a daring thing, is especially because, I mean, we're both Swiss and we're not known for being very emotional. I mean, Swiss as such, is that you emphasize the importance of, to some extent, as people work together in this human relation, to give more room to emotions. And I already hear, if I would talk to people, say, well, Andreas, look, this is good for Americans. You know, this is in an Anglo-Saxon world, but for the Swiss, this is no good. And you did this in Switzerland. So encouraging people to be more open about what they were not only thinking, but also feeling. Is that correct? Did I get that correctly?
Absolutely. I think the point, and you're mentioning correctly also, that this is applicable in many parts of the world. Personally, I've had the chance to use this model successfully, or with the agreement of all parties with good results, in many parts of Europe, not only in Switzerland. And I think one element is, let's not forget, we're Swiss, we're Dutch, we're Danish, we're Greek, we're Canadian, but we're all human beings.
Yeah.
And I think one of the basic elements in human relations is the word human.
Yeah, exactly.
And human beings have basic needs, and we can go into science, into sociology, into many, many areas to find out all the things that we know and have been written about the needs of humans, etc. And I never wanted to do it. I didn't do it, by the way, in the book either. This is not up to me to enter into discussion with. I'm not the person qualified to do so. However, through my experience and my practical ability to relate with people, I found out that wherever you were, the basic needs on how people, want to work together, cooperate, they go over the borders of a nation. They're international. They're human. That's what they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you say you sort of retired, but you're also engaged in this new venture, which is how it's called, the Institute for Emerging Change, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Tell me, just in two, 3 words, or maybe more, what this is all about.
As a consequence of the work that Madeleine Laugerie and myself we have been doing over the years, and then also of the work that Madeleine had been doing with other people in terms of refining the model, refining also the training of the people to use the model, there was a need to organize ourselves in a more structured way, to get a little bit more impact.
Yes.
So we actually decided, the 4 of us, then, that everyone with his or her capability, skills, and knowledge could add to this institute. So that's when we started 2 years ago, put our heads together and started with the elements that were already there. By the way, the book was not there yet then, but the idea was in my head. So
yes.
In the context of building this institute, everybody had a chance to bring in what was already there.
Yes.
And in between, we have been, the example of my book being one, we have been working together to kind of develop new ways, new exchanges. And there's one specific training which exists now on the specific model of the emerging change, which we have put in place 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And every year there's people coming in from industry, from consultants, but also managers, entrepreneurs coming in and wanting to understand what's going on. And at the same time, we were very happy to also include classes. We were present in one of the universities in the canton of Vaud,
Yes.
where the model was exchanged, was taught, if you wish, was practically applied also with groups of students.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're at the start. This is a beginning, and we want to keep on going, and we hope that this will go into the right direction.
Yeah, I very much encourage you to continue with these efforts, because from what I saw, what was produced either from either your book, which by the way is a book I can only recommend. It's called The Heartbeat of Excellence, the design of changing sustainably the Swiss way. So very well founded, very well written. It's an engaging book. It's a book you can read. I literally read it on the train from Geneva to Zurich, and then I read it again, sort of not the full, but a bit more. So it's really something that in 3-4 hours you can get, and it's something. It's also good reference
Yeah,
book.
I fully agree with you, and you're a fast reader, and you catch things very easily and quickly, Andreas. I know. The idea was that you fly from, I don't know, Geneva to New York. You can read the book and still have a dinner and maybe even catch 2 hours of sleep. That was the idea, right?
Exactly. So what I recommend to people who say I cannot read so much, the alternative is also what I do is I read maybe half an hour in the morning. So also there, if you read, it's easily you can read a chapter in half an hour, and in a week you have read the book. And I can really say then you have something very valuable if changing sustainably or sustainable performance is of interest to you. If that's not of interest to you, then just forget the book, obviously. So thank you very much, Curt. Is anything else you want to add sort of at the end of this conversation?
No, I think I would like to finish maybe first with thanking you, Andreas, for investing your time and having me here in an interview together. It really allows me to express things that are very close to my heart. But at the same time, I would kind of wrap up with the beginning. We're not talking about things that are complicated.
Yes, yes.
They're simple, but if you don't address them, they become complex and they become a hindrance to the system. So things are evident, they're simple, but they need to be addressed.
Need to be addressed, and you need to be, I think, also open to address them. I think it requires also a certain humility, no?
Well, that's, if I may say, when you talk about the subtitle of the book, The Design of Change is Mainly the Swiss Way,
Yes.
I think what you're Swiss, I'm Swiss. I think when we look at our history and where we come from and how things developed, where we are today, there's very many things with regard to human relations,
Yes.
Consensus, cooperation, cohesion, coherence, all these beautiful C words, many things that we can see having grown in Switzerland over the centuries.
Yes, yes.
Which could act as very nice analogies to what we're trying to say and what I'm saying in my book.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We close with these words, and I thank you for this time. I thank you for this interview. And
all the best. Thank you very much, Andres. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Curt. Bye.
Bye. Take care.